Recommended reading. Maybe we should get a
Yes.
jingle for that.
Before we do the recommended reading, why don't you try and cue that music, white boy? It's like the first time we've got that right.
Yeah, you mean I've got that right? You're not doing anything wrong. It's me.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, dude, I don't know if you want to jump straight into it. I mean, this is a follow-up. If anyone hasn't seen, sorry, I've got a little bit of a technical thing there. My bad. The fan was hitting the iPad.
Fine.
Damn it, it's going to keep doing it. So sorry about this. Maybe I'll try cut it out, but wow, that really
Don't apologize for it. You know what, we're bound to have all kinds of technical things now, so it is what it is, man.
But what I was trying to say is that, so if anyone's seeing this video for the first time, we did do one or two other videos before this on our recommended readings for comics. So if you want to go check those out, please do. And please remember to like and subscribe. We haven't opted for people to do that, please.
It's true. We should try get in that habit every video. Hit like and please subscribe. Share the love. Share with your family, your friends. If you like our chat, if you like what we're all about, then yeah, please do that for us.
And shamelessly give us sponsors. We can make a living out of this.
One day,
Dude,
people will jump on the sponsorship bandwagon for us, man.
Dude, so I don't know if you want to... I don't know if we must... I haven't thought through the format of this. I don't know if you want to go for it, if we want to do like one, like you do one, I do one.
Okay, we can do that. I can kick us off with some additional recommended reading material. I have spliced mine down, so I'm not going to bombard people with like 8-10 different choices now.
Yeah, mine's super small, dude. So I've kept it very simple too. So, but
got you. Yeah. Okay. So the first one out of the gate, and I picked this because it's I think it's quite relevant given that they've recently just released the DC animated film on this, and that is Superman, Red Sun. Over here, a classic by Mark Miller and a host of, I think it was Dave Johnson or someone who was the artist on it. Pretty cool kind of art interior-wise for those there. Let me try and get that on. That looks quite good. I'll give you another page somewhere over there. So the art I found was excellent inside this particular story graphic novel. And I can't remember if this or Batman the Vampire, but it was certainly around the same time that I discovered these types of Elseworld stories where, as I mentioned in one of our earlier clips, the sort of Elseworld idea is taking that, what if Batman was a vampire? What if, in this particular case, what if Superman didn't land in sort of the heart of Kansas in America and wasn't raised by wholesome, down-to-the-earth farm folk like he was in the original sort of origin story of Superman, Clark Kent? And what if his ship overshot the United States and landed smack bang in the middle of communist Russia back in the day? Yeah, and he's raised not by wholesome Russian folks, but the state catches the baby and the plane quite quickly, and he's raised as sort of one of Stalin's underlings or next in line to take over when Stalin is done, so to speak. And yeah, he's raised with that communist militaristic sort of mindset. And the cool thing that I like about the story is they take some of the popular characters. Diana, Wonder Woman, is still the emissary of Themyscira and the Amazons, and instead of becoming an ambassador and going to the United States, she spends a lot of her time with what she perceives to be her equal in Superman, Russian Superman. Batman, the whole story and the Batman vigilante thing isn't in Gotham City in America. He's in Russia, and he's he's a fighter and a warrior against the communist government that is, and is eventually being led or headed up by Superman. And Lex Luthor is there, and he's he's working on the American side, and he is, as he goes to the ranks, he eventually becomes like president of America, and he's trying to topple that regime that Superman has in Russia. The Green Lanterns are there too. They're an army of warriors for the Americans. It's very, very cool. And there's one particular scene that they did inside the animated, but they didn't do it like they did in the graphic novel, where Superman takes on this army of America's Green Lanterns. And dude, it's just, I don't want to spoil anything, but you have to, if for nothing else, you have to read this thing just to see how Superman takes out this army of Green Lanterns.
Because that's actually what I wanted to ask you. Is it's on my to watch list. I haven't watched the animation yet, so I actually want to ask, just without giving anything away. I mean, difference between the TP and the animation? Would you? A lot. Okay. Good.
There's a lot different. I find that they changed the anime, or at least animated, to suit a modern audience. They probably did it as well because they didn't want, and I don't know why, because I thought the story beginning to end in this graphic novel is incredible, mind-blowing, and would be perfect if they left it the same for the animated, but they did change a lot of things. I didn't not like the animated's ending, but it pales in comparison to the graphic novel, in my personal opinion. The graphic novel is leagues above the animated in this particular instance. Yeah, man.
Okay, cool.
Over to you. What do you have out the stable?
So, dude, this isn't... Actually, I don't know what order I'm going to go in here, but... So this might sound silly, but similarly to what you just said, I'm going to put it as a recommended read. I haven't finished it because for some reason I've always started and never stopped, but it's a classic. Batman Hush.
Nice.
Because I mean, they also recently did the animation when they also changed it, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, took out the Riddler, and he's like a huge part of the story. So, but again, I know this might sound silly because I haven't finished reading it, and I'm putting it as a recommended read. But what I've read so far, it's just such a cool like spy thriller, like Batman story, and you kind of like, and maybe let me just. So it's Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, the usual dream team. Sorry, I keep showing the wrong camera, but but yeah, and it just it's, I mean, I haven't read far. I've read until he's like taking on Killer Croc and stuff. But so that's very very close into the story, and like, you know, no one knows why they're evading, and they like trying to get this money away from people. And but anyway, like it's a cool story, and it sort of like keeps you on your toes. So I'm like, it's made me want to carry on reading it. So I haven't got much to say about else because I haven't finished it, but what I've read so far I'm really digging. And it's always been on my to-do list, and I don't know why. It's just always somehow flies under the radar with me.
The one thing that I loved about it was, for those people that know sort of a Jim Lee's career, etc., he's one of those artists who's probably head and shoulders above most of the people around him, and at that time he was definitely a superstar kind of artist. He was a superstar at Marvel. He left, and with a bunch of other Marvel artists, they started Image Comics together, and he was a superstar artist there. And he always struggled with certain deadlines because of the nature of his art and the intricacies, etc. He sometimes can fall behind in terms of delivering stuff on time. And he had drawn full comic books for, I don't even know how long. He sold his whole stake in Image over to DC. They own all of his characters and everything, lock, stock, and barrel. And he was absorbed into the DC management structure, and he just wasn't drawing comics. And then out of nowhere, at least for me, I had taken a bit of a break and then come back to comics. And one of the things I came back to was that very story, Hush, and him doing not only the cover art, but the full story with Jeff Loeb. And that, he was missed, and it was just so amazing to get Jim Lee art back in comics again. And like you say, the art really does complement the story there. It's good
definitely.
marriage, I felt.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice pick. I would recommend for you is to finish reading it before you go to the animated, and then tell me what you think. Personally, I didn't see the twist coming right at the end in that story in particular. So it worked for me in that regard, and they did change it in the animated. And again, I was like, why? This worked. Why did you change it?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with Hush, is because I've spoken to so many people that have read it. So I've like heard bits and pieces, and I kind of know bits of the story that I haven't read yet. So I'm just hoping I haven't spoiled it for myself, which is a good chance I have. But I will. I mean, I'm like a third of the way now, so I will get through it shortly. It's part of why, for anyone out there, is part of why we're doing these videos, to kind of hold ourselves accountable to actually finish reading stuff. I don't come on here and do what I just did and try and spitball it, but
but still, I do agree with you, and even on the bits that you have read, it is just definitely recommended reading for some folks out there, 100%.
Cool.
Next one that I have is it's another weird one. It's a personal favorite of mine. I don't know how readily available this graphic novel is, or if it's in print, but it is Ash Vol1.
Joe Quesada.
Ash was, 100%. Back in the day when a lot of the guys were abandoning ship from the Marvel side of things and branching off with their own things, Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti didn't go to Image. They decided to start their own little publishing house called Event Comics. And Ash was the flagship character in that. In my opinion, it's some of Quesada's best animated or best comic work, if you take a look at that.
I like the blacks and the reds. Looks cool.
Yeah, very, very cool, man. I mean, to show you some of the interior panel work there, I mean, he was top of his game over here, man. And Palmiotti's inks and coloring, just amazing. And the basic premise is there's this firefighter, Ashley, and one day, inexplicable, or you don't understand why or how in the beginning of the story, but he kind of gets possessed by this entity, and it turns out it's actually a dude, sort of like kind of Terminator-esque, the soldier from the future, and we've ruined the Earth, and events have happened to put the Earth in that space. And this guy gets his consciousness, his soul, his essence transported back in time, and it needs to inhabit a body while it's here, and it finds this firefighter and picks him.
Wow.
Very, very cool. And this guy, in the future, he can manipulate nuclear energy and radiation, and just so happens that when he gets transported back here to this firefighter's body, he doesn't have the ability to manipulate nuclear energy, but he can manipulate fire. And he can control fire, he can make fire shields, fire blades, etc., etc. And the thing that I really loved about the story is whenever he needs to transform or he's in danger or whatever, this warrior personality, Ash, actually comes out of him, and it comes out, he like vomits fire out of him. He gets consumed by the fire, and then Ash is standing there. And the only thing that this character can't do is he can't speak. So Ash is functionally mute, but what you do get is you get this inner dialogue between Ashley the firefighter and the warrior inside his head. So there were some awesome scenes in the book where he saved somebody, he's standing there all imposing, 7 foot tall, whatever it is. The person's trying to thank him. He's looking at the person, but he can't speak. But inside, you're hearing the guy go, "Hey, you're welcome, all in a day's work for us." And then the warrior side is going, "Stop with the petty banter with the person. We need to go on and find the person who started the fire." And he's going, "Just chill. We need to calm them down. They've gone through like an emotional thing here." And the warrior's going, "No, enough of this. It's petty and it's not going to serve any purpose. Let's go." And to the person, if you can imagine that scenario there, this person sitting there looking at this guy, talking to him, nothing's happening. And inside, there's this whole sort of inner monologue battle going on between the two of them. One going, let's do this. The other one going, no, let's not. No, let's do this. Let's not. And I love that. Just the whole story for me, I enjoyed. I was on my seat as a kid collecting Ash. Couldn't wait for the next issue to come out. So it's just, yeah, not only did I like the story, not only did I like the take on it, but it just, I think there's a lot of nostalgia factor for me on this particular one as well. My good buddy, Roy RJ at the time, we were obsessed with this story. We were hunting down signed editions of this by Kasana and Palmiotti, etc. And it was definitely one of the jewels in our collection. So I love it. I recommend it if you can find it.
Yeah, you know what I like? I haven't read it, and it's definitely now on my to-do list. But I just like the idea of this entity, as you say, inherently like taking over and already a hero. I mean, a firefighter is a hero, whether you like it or not. He is superhuman in the context of humanity. So I like that because often stories, like I'll use the Pro as an example, it's this unlikely person who gets imbued with powers, and it's all their character growth and becoming a good person and rising to the occasion. But the fact that it's I like that. That's it. I haven't heard that in a lot of stories, so I really dig that sort of the idea behind that.
Yeah, the modern day hero becomes a superhero.
Yeah, exactly.
Like.
Yeah.
I never thought about it until you actually said that, and I'm like, wow, you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, no, it's actually a very beautiful theme. I don't want to get deep, but it's really cool. Well thought out.
Yeah, man. So give it a try, you and anyone else who is interested.
Cool.
Do you have another one for us?
I do, dude, and I don't want to give too much away of this, and this is an obvious one, but it is, I'm going to show you first, but it's Hellblazer. Now, the reason I bring this up is because you can get this in any print you want. Volume 1 is typically called Original Sins. Dude, so they've started, I'll show you guys the spine. They've started re-releasing it now, and I've gotten these, and I'm trying to collect all the volumes. It's a lot of volumes. Just to give you guys some context, the Volume 1 run of Hellblazer was 300 issues. So so it's a lot of trades that you've got to get. But the reason I recommend number 1 is because it also just gives you an original idea of what Constantine was about. I don't know if you know this, dude, but the first cover that they've used here is actually a Jim Lee cover.
I didn't know that, actually.
So sorry, I
didn't even see that.
Yeah, so like, and I mean, when you hear, you're like, oh yeah, that's totally Jim Lee. So it does have his signature there. I'm not talking nonsense. And just to like, I mean, there's so many people that have written, so many epic like people have written, like Ennis and Gaiman and amongst others. What's his name that did Damned, even.
Oh yes, Azzarello.
Yeah, there's so many guys, and the cool thing about these TPs, the way they've released them, is obviously you can read them sequentially if you want, but if you specifically liked an era of Azzarello's or Gaiman's, you can literally just get that volume, and you can read it self-contained, and that's kind of why I'm recommending it to people.
Very cool.
But just to give some little context, like it's still one of my favorite, and it's literally Volume 1, Issue 1, as far as I know. It's a story called Hunger, and it's where all of a sudden there's this very, very overweight guy. I don't want to be a dick, but he's running around in like town and he keeps eating. And the more he eats, the more hungry he gets. And he can't understand, and to the point where he's trying to eat people. It's like so over the top. And eventually, but he's still starving. And eventually he eats and eats and eats, but he gets like anorexic to the point where he basically melts into himself. And then obviously it's like, well, Constantine's on the job. Like, what the hell's going on? And you actually find out like an acquaintance of his try to handle some like voodoo thing in like that's come all the way from Africa, and because it's just follow Constantine around and kind of copy what he did, the guy miserably screws it up, and obviously Constantine's got to clean up after his mess. And it's just, so it's the typical like, it's dark, but it's funny at the same time, but it's it's demons and the usual jazz with Mr. John Constantine. I mean, that's just the first story, and then you vaguely get to meet Papa Midnight for anyone who's familiar with him. That's like a voodoo like master. That Constantine often has like this friendship with, but like it's a harsh friendship. They at any given time, like trying to have each other killed or like was sitting in the same club. It's kind of like that. They've always got to end up helping each other out because they don't want to. But yeah, dude. And I mean, yeah. So depending on what you dig, but I can, yeah, you know me, I can recommend any Justice League Dark related stuff like over and over and over. So that's my. I mean, you could pick up some of the newer stories, but because they're re-releasing the stuff, it's becoming easier to get hold of. And especially if you grew up in the era where you watched the film that they made, which they went a very different direction with the Keanu Reeves. He's American. He's a brunette. There still is some elements and stuff. But if you were a fan of that, I definitely, I mean, get some of this Vertigo goodness, and I think you'll dig it, man. It's really cool, and you'll see. I mean, the true John Constantine.
I love that character. I like the fact that he's a morally ambiguous. At his core, he's always trying to do the right thing and do good for the greater good too. But the thing that I love about that character is often he is in these situations where he makes decisions that, man, when you get to that end of that story and you look back and you go, wow, that was quite a choice that he had to make. Or the way that he cons people, you know, he's always running various cons and things like that, and you can never know what his true hand is until the end of the story kind of thing. And I love that about that character. It keeps you guessing, it keeps you engaged in the story, and then very often the right writer takes that thing around where it's, wow, okay, let's drop this bombshell on you right at the end and go, what, did he really just do that? Like, I don't think I could make the same choice in that situation.
Yeah,
I think that's what makes him such a cool character.
A great example for those, like anyone out there like me, it's struggling to read, it was Constantine, I think, City of Demons, that animation that recently came out, and that dude, like, I had to hold back the tears. What he has to do for his friend Chaz, I think it is. That's like, for those who don't know, it's like his sidekick that kind of like drives them around and does all stuff that no normal person would be willing to do. And yeah, he takes one for the team, and it's insane. So it's a perfect example of what you're saying, and you don't see it coming. You're like, what? Like no one would do that.
Both of us I think we can both recommend that animate if people can find it.
Yeah,
definitely a good DC animator there. And then man, what I wanted to just wrap things up with. I don't have anything to say about this, but I'm planning on reading this,
nice.
Sex Criminals, Volume 1. I've got quite a few of them. I've been meaning to read it for a while. It's by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. Highly, highly acclaimed. A lot of the guys that do kinds of reviews, etc., it's all in their recommended reading lists and stuff. And I just want to, by the time we get to another round of filming, I'm hoping that I would have read this and I can give folks my 2 cents worth on it and my take.
Yeah, I've definitely also, I have one more, which exactly like you. It's planning to read. It's on my next list. And it's Black Canary and Zatana by Paul Dini. So,
nice.
Again, I've got to get used to where to show this, but it looks fun, dude. So yeah, this also, I'm putting myself on the block. I want to check it out. It's called Bloodspell. I think it's self-contained as far as I know. There's no Volume 1, Volume 2, so which is going to make it an easy read. So yeah, that's next on my list.
So that's us holding ourselves to task, I guess, and watch this space. We'll come back with our unique reviews and perspectives on these things, I suppose.
Nice.
Yeah.